new defensive coordinator, Mike Macdonald, so hey, yeah, that's right, that's right. And just a couple of things about Mike and get started for questions, but this is not a stranger. This is somebody that we know, has been with us for many years through many battles, trials and tribulations, and some great moments. And consider Mike to be family, part of the family, part of the Ravens family. You guys all know him, and that's the biggest thing. So he's a great coach, better person. I feel like we're very blessed to have him here. He had opportunities from a lot of various directions this season after what he accomplished here, then at Michigan this year. So we're very fortunate and very blessed to have him to have him have chosen the Ravens. And 4 points I think that kind of came into the decision-making process for us and for me. Number one, he grew up as a coach here. So I think Mike, I know Mike understands the standards, and he's part of establishing those standards. Second thing, he's an established part of the Ravens culture, defensively, the history, and the success we've had. He contributed to it. He helped build it. He was a major contributor, number three, to the 2018 rebuild of our defensive schemes. And Mike, on the ground floor of that rebuild, was very integral in the way we've built the defense and the way it runs right now. And obviously, you saw it operate at Michigan, and we're planning on taking that to another level as we keep building it. And then finally, I think very impressively, made a bold move last year. Sometimes it's tough to leave a comfortable situation and go step out and take a chance. And he was willing to do that, bet on himself, went out and had great success, and created some opportunities for himself. So, the things that you see in Mike, it's a great combination of intelligence, common sense, people skills, then the really unique, hard to find balance of confidence and humility. So without further ado, our new defensive coordinator, Mike Macdonald.
Wow, it's great to see everybody. Thanks, John. That was awesome. Hopefully, I'll live up to all that.
You got to live up to that, yeah.
It's great to see everybody again. I just, first just want to say how honored and thankful my wife Stephanie and I are for this opportunity. I mean, it's a dream come true to come back home. This is home for me and my family. So when the opportunity did come about, it was really one of the easiest decisions I've ever made. Or we've ever made. So and then first and foremost, I'd like to thank Mr. Bisciotti, Eric, Ozzie, Coach, my wife Stephanie, just for having the confidence in a guy like me, and trusting that we'll build on the legacy here and for the Ravens defense. And like John said, I really do believe that that I understand the standard of what it takes to play like a Raven. I've been part of this culture. This culture has helped mold me, and I've grown up in this culture. And it's one that I don't take that lightly, and I really respect. And it's not easy to get. It's not easy to build something that we've been able to build here. So I look forward to building upon it. It's a great challenge. It's a humbling challenge. Believe in the people in the building. Believe in the players that we have in place. And we're just really excited to get it going. I mean, just getting the pieces in place and starting to rock and roll and build what we envision to be another great Ravens defense. So thanks again, and we want to hear any questions.
Mike, a lot of defensive coordinators, they'll have a certain vision they want to, whether it's style or how they play. How do you want this Ravens defense under you? How do you want people to see it and talk about it and play like?
Yeah, sure. I think you're building on what we've been able to do over the last, really since over the course of the entire franchise, right? Especially since John's been here, and then since 2014. But the first thing you want is a cohesive unit. You want everybody to have each other's backs. There's a certain style of play that it takes to play like a Raven, right? And then how you build it. I mean, you want it to be multiple, and I think that's what we were aiming for in 2018, and I think we were able to achieve a lot of that. You want it to be flexible and adaptive, but it needs to be complementary as well, and it needs to be light enough where you can adjust to certain things, and it's simple for the players so they can go play play the way you expect them to go play.
For both of you, how does the Jim, back to John, how do those conversations truly go?
Well, Mike doesn't know. He wasn't part of that conversation. So Jim and I we've been arguing back and forth for a long time. So we were very comfortable, But no, it was Originally, it was just the fact that Jim was looking for a defensive coordinator, and we were talking back and forth, and you know, I thought of Mike right away, and I said, hey, you should talk to Mike Macdonald, and he did, and then you know, it was an easy decision for Jim, and then you know how things kind of started to come together after the season, and this opportunity just kind of created itself, and then I thought, you know, Mike would be a candidate, and I called Jim to see if he'd be okay with it. You know, if we asked for permission and could interview Mike for the job, and he was great about it. Really, he really was. Morgan, he was maybe a couple seconds of silence, you know, and then he's like, absolutely, absolutely. You took care of me, and Mike's a great guy, and he deserves the opportunity, and that's really how it went.
Hey, Mike, I don't know if you want to answer, but is there a hardball you prefer? And what's
It's that? I mean, because I'm standing here, you know.
what's the difference, seriously, between the two? And also, as a follow-up, you started as an intern here.
That's right.
Can you talk about some of the jobs that you had as you paid your dues, working your way up?
Yeah, sure. You know, you start listing like the differences, and it kind of comes full circle, you know, where it ends up being more similar than not. But I've said this in the past. I mean, not just because John's sitting right here, but the biggest common denominator is two real, genuine guys that shoot you straight. There's no alter anything going on, you know. There's no side deals. It's just upfront and honest, and that's all you can ask for, you know, as an employee and someone part of that organization. So, two guys that you're easy to, you know, willing to go to battle for sure. As far as an intern. Look at Chris Horton and I were interns together. We were just sitting in our office that we sat together back in 2014. I sat here and he was in this corner. But that was a great
How
experience.
big was that office, and was there enough
It's
room for you
TJ's
two
now.
guys? It's TJ's office?
Yeah.
How many, was there two in there or three?
We had Eugene in the corner.
Eugene also, three.
I mean, it was, you know, at my point in my life, it was just like a call from God. It was just, Jerry Rossberg called me one day, and I was about to, you know, the story's kind of out there, but I was got to go take another job, and I mean, what an opportunity of a lifetime, right? So, I mean, we were just here doing everything we could to help the team. I think they were trying to figure out what that role looked like over time. So we were just looking for stuff, you know, hey, what can we do? You know, let's take that off your hands. Let's take this off this guy's hands, you know. And then there, you know, we came up with special projects over time, protections, tendency things, you know, that you know, those types of projects are always fun to take on. So, what is it? You know, what an incredible opportunity that was. It was an awesome year.
Mike, what were you gonna do? You know, you just graduated from grad school, correct, at Georgia?
Yeah, well, I did a one-year program in 3 years, so all the news out there about how smart I am, I don't know how it translates.
I thought you said 3-year program in 1 year. I got that backwards.
What kind of offer did you have, and how close were you to accepting it, and non-football, that is?
Yeah, so you know, this KPMG was more tailored towards like the whole finance thing, which couldn't tell you anything about finance, but it felt like it was time that there wasn't anything that had come up. So, you know, so it's kind of like, okay, well, you got to start going make some money. And yeah, I'd signed a contract and everything, and I called my recruiter back. I was like, hey, sorry, but going somewhere else. She's like, well, you know, you can't be an employee at KPMG anymore. I was like, I think I'm okay with that.
Mike, can you, yeah, Mike, can you kind of describe how you grew in your year at Michigan, where you got to be a coordinator for the first time, and you really got to kind of put your own philosophy in place? And John, I'm interested in your perspective on that too. Kind of what did you see from him over the last year?
Yeah, sure. You know, you have a vision of how you would like it to operate, you know, so I think the beginning part of like the big learning, you know, segment was, hey, let's get everybody on the same page. And how do you do that? You know, it really just came through a bunch of conversations of how I envisioned things going, how the players envisioned things going, what the coaches thought, you know, putting together a staff. So it was great to get that experience, right? I mean, just trying to create alignment within the organization. You know, that's something you don't really necessarily do as a position coach. You know, you only have 8 guys in your room at any given time. Now you're looking at a room full of 50 guys and saying, okay, like, how do we get this thing to come together? So, yeah, and credit to the players there too. I mean, the players at Michigan are awesome guys. Just loved absolutely coaching them, and they did everything we asked.
What was the key with your
impact in Michigan as far as getting the scoring down, the yards, everything else, as far as getting that defense to play together compared to the previous year?
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
What was the key for you in Michigan to turn that defense around as far as scoring and yards, everything else, compared to the previous year? How did you get the guys sort of play together and do so well?
That's a great question. I mean, it's kind of like everything, all of the above. You know, it started with Jim, how he created, you know, the environment and the types of teams that he builds. The offense, you know, doing their part. Special teams, you know, it's like, how do we win collectively? Like, how do you play the right way so we can go win games and achieve our goals? I mean, it sounds cliche, me listening to myself talk, but it really was. I mean, it's simple, but it's not easy, right? So that was the key, you know.
John, I don't think I've seen you smile at a press conference as much as you have so far. This one just a constant smile. Does it feel almost like you have a son that you kind of brought in? You know, I mean, and have someone that is obviously very smart but very young, and for this position, and to have that kind of dynamic that's different.
Yeah, it's, I'm really happy and excited. You know, it was a great process. We talked about a lot of it on Monday. I mean, kind of the things we've been doing for the last 3 weeks, and it's been a whirlwind. It's been the season into a season, really, for me. And Mike was playing in the playoffs just a couple weeks ago. So, you know, it's all this craziness going on, but it's exciting. It's fun, and it's get your juices going. You know, Child's question was, what did you see, right, in the last year, and that kind of brings me to the point. It's like here's a coach that, you know, I knew was a really good football coach. I saw him every single day. I saw him with his guys. I knew how he related to his guys, the building, how he taught, how he helped build the defense, you know, so I knew how his mind worked. This is a really good football coach. Then you see him go off into a situation where they completely revamp a defense, really in about 2 weeks before you start spring ball, right? Yep. We talked about that. I mean, it wasn't like there was any time to hit the ground running and organize. They were rolling into spring ball and had to teach these guys. Yeah, they had talented guys and guys that were into it, but they had to teach them a whole new system really in 2 weeks into spring ball, then root for the season. And to see how that unfolded with the way they played and the way they understood it and the way they were organized and how they functioned. And then to see the spirit, you know, and I know Jim, I know the culture there, so I know where that, you know, it comes from. Then for Mike to take that defense to the level they did in terms of the way they played, how they played, the way they flew around, you know, the way they believed in each other, the way they related to one another, kind of the spirit that was kind of running through the whole defense. So I saw it all year, and then to see it in the interview. So we had a number of interviews, and all the guys did a great job. But Mike was different in the sense that I was able to see, you know, his thought process in terms of the way he built a defense on his own. So he took the defense and structured it and was able to teach me that and relay that to me and show me how he did it and how he solved the problems that the college game presented, that the pro game presents within the structure of the defense, and how he taught things and how he kind of grew the thing and made some advancements in it all was just very impressive. And I just looked at it and said, wow, that's taken that from that level to the next level in a very impressive way in just 1 year in every way, in the way they played and the way they related to one another, then in the structure of the scheme. So in the end, that was what did it for me.
John, Mike's the youngest defense coordinator in Ravens history and right now the current in the NFL. In the thought process of adding him, did age ever come into, did you ever think of that, or was that ever a part of the factor or anything like that?
It really didn't cross my mind. I mean, there's a lot of great young coaches in the NFL. There's a lot of head coaches right now that are very young in the NFL doing well. Sean McVay, gosh, you know. So, to me, age is just a number. I don't care if it's a low number or a high number. You know, it's a number. So it's what you bring and what you contribute and how you do the job.
How closely did you follow the Ravens? You know your history, like the last year in Ann Arbor. How closely did you follow this team, and what do you think of the roster you now inherit on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, the hours of 1 to 4 on Sundays were not very productive for Michigan football. So I was right there with them. You know, as long as we could possibly do it, we were watching every play, living and dying on every play. I mean, it was incredible. Just what happened. Some of the endings, you're like, oh my God, how's this even possible? But in terms of the roster, that's what we're evaluating right now. There's going to be a lot of new faces, I'm assuming, and it's just an ongoing process. But the guys we have in place, I mean, they're great players. They got a great track record. I'm excited to work with them.
Mike, you coached under Coach Mike Macdonald, and you were able to go to Michigan and kind of
built your own defense. I know you just talked about you still figuring out the roster situation and everything. But from a philosophical standpoint, what can we expect to see from this defense that we didn't see from Coach Martindale?
Well, there's a lot of carryover from Wink because we were together when, like how John describes how we tried to build it in 2018. So we see a lot of things the same. One thing that's definitely going to carry over that Wink did that I learned that I used a lot at Michigan was over communicating the situations with the players. So I just think it's kind of like when you have a rookie in training camp. Not that I ever did this, but it's like, hey man, you got this coming up. Like, you ready for this call? And oh, what do you know? The guy executed it well. So it's the same thing in the game. If you can go over the situation with the guys, let them know what you're going to call in certain situations, and they're on the same page, you find the execution's better. So just the over communication and the situational playing the game before it happens, something definitely carry over.
Mike, you see a lot of aspects from the college game making their way into the NFL now. How much do you feel like your experience last year, seeing Ohio State and some of the concepts and across the league, kind of helps you moving forward?
I hope it helps. I mean, it's funny, you think that the game is very different, at the college level to what I've been watching the last few days. But I hope it helps. You see a lot of those concepts translate, go back and forth. So, we'll be able to kind of draw on what we did at Michigan for sure.
John, we're here with the hiring. Do you or the team have any comment on the Ryan Flores lawsuit? And how would you characterize Ravens hiring practices over the course of your time?
Yeah, I really haven't prepared any thoughts on that other than to say that I've been a part of the hiring practices here. I've learned the way it's been done when I first got here way back in 2008, because Steve Bisciotti to me that's what he does. He made his fortune hiring people, and I think nobody's more thorough and covers every base more than Steve Bisciotti, and I feel like that's the way this organization is grounded, on his philosophies and how he does it, and I think we've been great at it. I think we've been very, very thorough, very diverse, very fair, very open in what we've done, and I'm kind of proud of that.
John, when you've had a relationship with Mike for as long as you did, and then he goes to Michigan, do you guys keep up the dialogue, in the intervening year? I mean, are you guys kind of bouncing ideas off one another while he's doing his thing in Ann Arbor?
A little bit, there was times I'd text, there was a lot of like texting at the end of games, that's awesome, or whatever. Most of the time, there was one game where it was like, it wasn't so awesome, but
we'll talk about that.
But we had more of those, unfortunately. So it is kind of like you kind of share I think what Mike was talking about. You kind of live it more as a fan, kind of, than you do as a coach. I did watch some tape every now and then, and I'd call, I'd maybe call or text and say, what are you guys doing there? What's that idea? But more of as a fan, I'd say.
Just to follow up on that, obviously we don't have the kind of access to information and information that you do, but it looks like one thing that really impressed Michigan fans and analysts was from week to week, and Mike mentioned this, just the adaptability of the defense. 1 week would be a lot of cover 2, 1 week a lot of cover 3, the next a lot of quarters. I guess what did that kind of tell you about just that ability to change and keep things fresh, but also keep them effective from week to week?
Right, Jonas said to me, that's just a great point. I mean, that's the essence of what you do. You've got to keep it moving, and you've got to have enough tools in the tool bag. You've got to have answers for what people are going to do. And from 1 week to the next, you're going against an Aaron Rodgers. You're going against a big running game. You're going against Joe Burrow. Every week is a different set of and you can't bring the same exact tools to bear every single week, because they don't apply to that team, or they know what you're going to do and they just attack it. So to take that, I think Mike took that to Michigan this year, that philosophy, that pro kind of mindset, and it was really effective, I would say. And then, he even developed it there, I think, to a level that we can come back here and we'll just be Mike. I mean, it's going to be a team effort, everybody will be involved. We had a great staff. We've got 2 guys on the staff that interviewed for the job and did an amazing job. So we've got some great coaches that are fired up to work together. It's never a one-man show ever. It's a team effort, but that's the point. You got to be able to move the pieces around. You got to have the right pieces, guys that can make plays for you and are able to be moved around. So all those things come to bear.
Just a question for both of you guys. Do you expect possibly to be coaching against Jim in the NFL this year? The rumors are hot and heavy that he's traveling around today. I know today is National Signing Day, so I'll let you both answer that. And Mike, if the job were to open at Michigan, I know you just accepted the job here, but what about being the head coach at the University of Michigan?
Yeah, Mike, what about that?
That respectfully would decline. Yeah, absolutely. I'm home here. I'm happy here.
You expect to be coaching against Jim at some point, maybe? So?
Well, I'll tell you, if he's interviewing in Minnesota, is that the rumor?
There was a rumor he was in
Yeah.
Florida today. I can't keep track.
No, he's not in Florida today. I can debunk that rumor. He's in, I think he's in Minnesota unless the plans changed in the last few hours, but if he's in Minnesota, I'd be happy to play him in the next 3 years. If anybody understands how the schedule in the NFL works, they understand what that means. So that would be awesome, that'd be great. I tell you, I'll sing his praises. I always do every time someone asks. I'm happy to do it. I think he's one of the very best coaches in the National Football League, maybe even ever, in college football, and I think he's the best. So if the Minnesota Vikings are smart enough to get that done, then they'll be making a wise choice.
Mike, obviously went into coaching at a very young age. When did you first start thinking about coaching as something you might want to do for a career? And before meeting the Harbaugh brothers, who were some of your biggest coaching inspirations growing up?
Well, in high school, I wasn't very good, so I actually ended up getting hurt and started coaching and started looking at it through that lens. So it was pretty early, and then, so like I said, I didn't play in college, so the opportunity to coach high school football in Athens, came up and just fell in love with it. I toiled it over for a little bit, but it ended up just being like, what are you doing? Like, this is where your heart's at. If you're 40 years old and you didn't give it a shot, like, you're not gonna be able to live with yourself. And then, before this happened, Coach Richt was our head coach at University of Georgia. Xavier Smith was my high school head coach, and I played for him my senior year. Two phenomenal human beings, Christian men that really just, they taught me, like, this is where I grew up, to like learn how to be a man, and take responsibility for things. Like, those are some things that those guys taught me, and really thankful for it.
Wanted to ask you both about Patrick Queen. I know you worked closely with him, Mike, when you were here before. Would the goal be to get him back to middle linebacker and possibly wearing the dot at some point, or is that still up in the air as you kind of figure the big picture out?
Yeah, I think it's up in the air right now. I think we're still early on. That'll be a process that will probably keep you up to date as it goes. But Patrick's going to be successful no matter where he's at. He's a great player. He's got a great skill set. He's very smart. He's still really young, so he's got a great career ahead of him.
Mike, I know you're still going over some of the personnel and roster play. This is a defense that traditionally is a top 10 defense. Last year, fell back to number 25. How quickly do you think this defense can get back to kind of the standard that it's pretty much accepted?
Like you said, it's the standard, right, Jameson, is that's where we want to be, ultimately our goal is not even top 10, right? You want to be, you want to be number one. So that's the standard, right?
Mike, I've not played college football, but when you got here and you're coaching pro players, what do you have to do to convince them? Like, I know, trust me, I know what I'm talking about here. When you didn't have that resume, that some players will, just kind of maybe even give an eye roll at first.
Well, I think the first thing is you got to be willing to say that you don't know rather than you do know. I think the players are smart. They know when you know, they know when you don't know. So being up front with them, right? Hey, like maybe they teach you something, and then it's more of a partnership, especially with the guys that I was able to work with, But yeah, it's pretty simple. You're not trying to trick them by any means.
Like, how much did you enjoy being a play caller for the first time last year? And, Wink was known for his aggressiveness in play calling. Just kind of, how did you feel like it went for you? What was your kind of style?
Yeah, it was a great process. I mean, it was like John said, it's a team effort, right? When you're building the game plan. So it's really about identifying those situations and then, are we sticking to the plan or do we need to make an adjustment off the plan? And we built it because of, we had two edge guys that were the best, but they didn't, in the country. So we were trying to let them do their thing as much as we could and to, create them, let them be successful. So, with the roster that we were having coming back at Michigan, would that change? Maybe, So it's just the willingness to just, try to just keep putting your players in the best position so they can succeed. And that if you let that kind of guide your decision process, you end up in a pretty decent spot.
Mike, the philosophy that you kind of saw with Wink's defense was aggressiveness and unique blitz concepts and stuff. Talk about carry that a philosophy that you hold, is the aggressiveness unique with its concepts?
Well, the aggressiveness absolutely is going to carry over, but I think you got to look through the lens, like, what does aggressiveness actually mean? It's about keeping the offense off balance, and where they're not really believing what they're seeing on a down-to-down basis. So a lot of times that will come with a schemed-up pressure, that'll happen, A lot of times it could be a fake pressure. It could look like this coverage and play like another one. You're changing the stress points of the zones and things like that, and just trying to create doubt at all times. You want to be the one, pushing the envelope rather than the other way around. So that aggressiveness, that was something that's a principle of the Ravens organization, right? Is aggressiveness.
Two more guys. John, do you remember how, back to 2014, how Mike came on your radar, or was it Jerry that got the tip about him as a young coach?
Jerry?
Yeah, like when you guys offered him a job back then.
I don't remember if Jerry was involved in it. Jerry Rosberg?
Yeah, Jerry's the one who offered me. Jerry offered me the job.
Oh, really?
He's the one who called me. Yeah.
Oh.
It was an Ohio number, and I thought it was a recruit, and I didn't answer it for like 10 times in a row.
Now I remember. So Jerry was in charge of our intern program, right? So, right, is that right, Chris? Yeah. That was before you, Daniel, or Travis, I think, when Jerry was doing that, when you guys broke in. But what we did was we just decided to go out and find we still do it, and we've got guys up in there now. You go out and try to find the brightest guys and the best guys you can. Our scouts have a lot to do with it because they're on college campuses all the time, and they kind of scout players, but we also scout coaches, young coaches, and different ways, and guys that reach out to us. So I don't know how Mike came on our radar initially with that, but Jerry wasn't responsible for making the calls and putting it together, as I recall. So yeah, it was good. It's good. I'll say this too. Mike, obviously, Chris Horton is another great example. I mean, Chris came in the same way. He had played in the National Football League. He was at UCLA. And now he's our special teams coordinator. Had the #1 special teams in the country, in the league this year, and because he's a great coach, does a great job, and it was kind of the same kind of process as Mike. So you take some pride in that. You feel good about that as an organization and as a head coach, for guys to do so well.
Have you guys, I don't know if this has been asked, in terms of the defensive staff, how things are shaking out now and the process you're in, any announcements?
Nothing right now. We're going to have, most of the guys will be intact. Guys do have opportunities. You saw Anthony is interviewing with the Broncos as defensive coordinator, and that's, if they're smart, they'll hire him. I know that, and I'm sure there's other great candidates, but Anthony Weavers is a great candidate. Chris is coming back. He interviewed, and we'll just kind of see how it shakes out. The guys, we want our guys back, but guys get opportunities. So I would say probably by the end of next week, at the latest, we should hope to have it solidified.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.